Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 10th of March 2025. These are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin with the whole Iran-US interaction that has been going on since the last few days. Now, on Friday, Donald Trump said that he had warned Tehran in a letter that it could face military actions unless it agreed to talks for a nuclear deal. In reaction, there was the statement by Iran's supreme leader who criticized bullying countries, which was in an apparent response to the letter by Donald Trump demanding these negotiations. Then there was the next day, there was a statement by Iran as well on Twitter or X, wherein it was said that Iran would consider negotiations with the US if the aim of the talks was to address concerns regarding any potential militarization of its nuclear program. Where are all of these things going? We all know the point of view that the US has or Israel has as far as Iran is concerned, but to which end is the US willing to take this, and which logical conclusion are we looking forward to in the coming weeks is what we will discuss in our first segment. Our second story concerns the situation in the Middle East with particular reference to Gaza. Israeli negotiators are in Doha. Today, mediators from Egypt, Qatar and the US are trying to revive this Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal. The fact is that Israel is pressurizing Hamas in order to accept an extension of the phase 1 of the ceasefire deal, wherein Hamas does not want that. It wants to move over to the second phase and then ultimately the third phase. Will that happen is a huge question. US President Donald Trump's envoy also says that direct talks with Hamas for the first time since 1997 to secure the release of US Israeli captives have been positive. To which extent have they been positive? Will this reveal some kind of a new process or angle to the current situation in the Middle East is what we will discuss in our second story. Then we are going to talk about Pakistan that has set March 31 as a deadline for Afghan migrants to leave. 22 days are left for the evacuation of the illegal foreign Afghan citizen card holders. The government has said that arrangements have been completed for food and health facilities of the returnees, and they have said that the foreigners will have to meet the legal requirements to stay in Pakistan as well. Officials estimate that around 800,000 documented migrants hold Afghan citizen cards, while many others remain undocumented. Finally, we're going to talk about Canada's next Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who has vowed to win the trade wars as far as Trump is concerned. He is all to succeed Justin Trudeau as Canada's next Prime Minister. And of course, he has made a lot of promises as far as where he's going to take Canada in the coming weeks and years is concerned. But how true will that come to be is something that is on everybody's mind. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Iran nuclear talks. The how should I say, the conversation, to put it mildly, that has been going on between US President Donald Trump and Iran over this talks over the nuclear issue. We all know about the JCPOA. To discuss more on that, we've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Munawar Hussain. He's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Amir Mohsen Hadian, who's an international affairs expert. Thank you very much to have joined us as well. Let's begin with you, Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, Iran, I'll begin with the latest and then we'll go a little bit back. There is a statement that has come on X or Twitter wherein it is said that Iran is going to consider negotiations with the US if the aim of talks is to address concerns regarding any potential militarization of its nuclear program. This was said by the UN mission of Iran in this post. And I'm going to quote the post. It says, if the objective of negotiations is to address concerns vis-a-vis any potential militarization of Iran's nuclear program, such discussions may be subject to consideration. However, should the aim be the dismantlement of Iran's peaceful nuclear program, let me repeat, such negotiations will never take place. How important is this? We'll begin with the latest development and we'll go a little bit behind. Your take.
Thank you very much for having me in your show, Barsa. This is very interesting development. Any step which is taken by United States of America or any statement that is coming from the America is taken very seriously in international politics, number one. Number two, I believe that this is pressure tactics which is used by President Donald Trump. This is a psychological power that they are using on Iran. Basically, they want to extract certain concessions from Iran, which is indicated even by the spiritual leader of Iran, that it is not the matter of nuclear deal. It is something else that they want from us and which is not acceptable, number one. Number two, I would say that as far as war is concerned or the use of hard power is concerned, America cannot do at this stage, because Americans, they are facing $27 trillion budget deficit. And militarily, they are tired. I mean, engaging on Ukrainian front, giving military aid to Israel. Trump gave a slogan during his election campaign that the moment he would come into power, he would stop all wars. Third, I would say that Arab allies, they won't accept this, that there may be destabilization in the Middle East, because Iranians, they have a capability to hurt the strategic assets of America, at least in the Middle East. Fourth, I would say America can't afford at this moment many fronts war. I mean, on the one front, they are engaging with the Russians, and the Europeans, they are antagonistic at this moment. On the other front, if they are opening up in the case of Gaza, and third front in the case of Iran, there would be many fronts. And even the role of China and Russia cannot be ignored. I mean, this is a multipolar world.
True.
So therefore, I think this is a pressure tactics, and President Trump is a good deal maker. He's not a peacemaker.
All right, he's a good deal maker, not a peacemaker. Do you agree with that, Mohsen, Hadian, that US President Donald Trump is a maker, not a peacemaker, under the current situation in which he's asking for talks on the nuclear deal with Iran? How sincere do you feel is the US side?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, actually, I think that Donald Trump wants to create a perception around this issue that the party that is refusing negotiations in good faith is Iran. His continuous insistence on negotiations is only to put the blame on Iran's side. However, his demands are unacceptable according to Tehran. Tehran would agree to talk with Trump probably or possibly if he only wanted to investigate the possible militarization of the Iranian nuclear program. However, Trump is bringing up additional issues such as the missile program and regional activities of Iran. So, in a sense, Trump has so far set an agenda that won't work out.
Agenda that will not work out. I again refer to what Trump said. He says he has offered Iran a chance to negotiate or risk its nuclear program being targeted. He said there are two ways this can be handled: militarily, or you make a deal. I would prefer to make a deal. This is what he says, quote unquote, because I'm not looking to, quote unquote, hurt Iran. What are the US intentions?
I think President Putin is playing a very important role. He is mediating between United States of America and Iran. I believe that Americans, they want to extract concession from Iran on the case of Afghanistan. I believe that Americans, they are coming into Afghanistan because $7 billion weapons statement, and if you see the statement regarding the Bagram base, I think they want to take certain concessions from Iran. Moreover, concessions on the front of Syria, concession on the front of Gaza, concessions regarding Lebanon, concession regarding Yemen. So I think these may be the issues. Otherwise, I said that Iranians, they have a capability to at least hurt or give a major or inflict a major injury to American strategic interest in the Middle East. Now, question is, can China and Russia allow United States of America to destabilize or to attack Iran, which is in alliance, clearly which is in alliance with Russia and China? I don't think so. Secondly, I believe that Iran is an old civilization, and therefore we see that Americans, when they are behaving with Iran, always they keep in their mind that Iran is not like the other Middle Eastern countries. It is an old civilization. And third, I believe that if you see the pattern by reviewing the history of Iran, United States of America relationship, I mean, though after revolution, Iran became very anti-American, But even then, we find a specific cooperation between these two nations by having this general conflict. For instance, American war after 9/11 in Afghanistan, Iranians, they cooperated. American war in Iraq, Iranians, they were the beneficiaries and they cooperated with America. Even when they have a very, clash with Israelis on the issue of Hamas and Lebanon, even then they were informing Americans that we are going to attack on Israel. So I believe that there would be some sort of deal between these two nations. At this moment, both are taking a hard lines in order to extract concessions from each other.
All right. So these negotiations are all about concessions and how much any country can extract these concessions from the other. All right. Amir, Mohsen, Hadian, Iran's supreme leader criticized the bullying countries in an apparent response to Donald Trump's letter. They haven't seen, but he has said that he has sent this letter. Trump said, of course, he had warned Tehran in a letter. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says as Iran will not negotiate with bullying governments insisting on talks. Is the already tense Iran-US relationship entering a new phase where we are going to see more tensions, or will, as Dr. Saab has pointed out, these discussions are all about how much concessions each country can benefit or take from the other? Is Israel also behind this push by the US for talks on this nuclear deal?
Well, the preferences in Israel, apparently the extreme right in the Israeli government prefers surgical strikes on the Iranian nuclear program. However, some voices even in Israel would prefer a negotiation rather than strikes on the Iranian nuclear program by the United States. And regarding whether the supreme leader of Iran has totally ruled out negotiations, I would rather say no. He doesn't totally rule out the possibility of negotiations. He doesn't shut the window of opportunity regarding negotiations. But he says that Iran would not negotiate under the current circumstances. That is what he's trying to say, I think.
All right, Dr. Munawar, the United Nations Monitor, that is the IAEA, says that, I'm quoting what it is saying, that the Iranian regime has rapidly advanced its nuclear program in the recent years. In December, the head of IAEA said Iran's decision to begin producing significantly more highly enriched uranium was worrisome. Tehran denies accusation that it is building any kind of nuclear weapons. It says its program is for peaceful purposes. Why are then alarm bells ringing when Iran has specified time and again that its program has peaceful aims? Is this being done to restrict Iran from stabilizing itself, from strengthening itself?
I think Gaza war has showed the very military capability of Iran, especially its air defense system and its missile system. That has alarmed the global north and some of the very key countries, even in the Middle Eastern countries. So I think this can be one of the important reasons. Number two, President Trump wants a nuclear-free world, except nuclear having in the hands of key powers of the international system. And this is the reason that even Qatar has showed its concerns regarding Israeli nuclear program and has petitioned in the United Nations that either Israel has to sign the NPT or at least IAEA safeguard must be applied on Israeli nuclear program. So therefore, Middle East is very sensitive, and I believe that President Trump is trying to create a world where mono doctrine can be revived, where American image of power can be revived. What is problem with Iran? I mean, we need to understand it. Iran is in a prisoner dilemma. Iran does not have a trust on any key player in international politics except China and some extent Russia. Because, I mean, in the past, there was a nuclear deal with the European power and United States of America. It was
JCPOA.
JCPOA. It was derailed by President Trump.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, I mean,
Iran was complying with everything under the JCPOA. It was moving in the right direction, and then comes Trump, and he completely, withdraws.
Then Iranians, they have a good relationship and at least diplomatic coordination with all key players of the Middle Eastern countries. But even then, regime was changed in Syria. And now there is a pressure on Lebanon, do not allow Iranian airlines to land on Beirut airport. So these are the things which create distrust in Iranian policymakers. So therefore, Iran is in a prisoner dilemma. Whether if they are going for negotiation and giving up their arsenals, then would they be able to defend themselves in the environment where trust cannot be made, especially after having the case of Zelensky, where Ukraine is almost destroyed. I mean, 24,000, its road network is completely destroyed. Its commerce and industry is completely destroyed. $175 billion losses they bear. Their military officers, they are killed during the war. The number of their casualties are 45,000. If you talk about the civilians, I mean, 175 to 420,000 people are killed. So, I mean, completely destroyed. So, this was the Ukraine that gave up nuclear program. I mean, it was the third largest country which has this nuclear and missile arsenals, but on the guarantee of United States and on the guarantee of Russia, when Boris Yeltsin was the president of Russia, they gave up. But now what is the security of Ukraine? So therefore, there is a mistrust in international environment, and especially when United Nations and the order-based, norm-based international order is completely disturbed. And we observed in the case of Palestine, we observed in the case of Kashmir. So during this time, I mean, it would be very difficult. If Americans, they gave a positive signals. For instance, they say that we are going to defreezing the assets of Iran. We are giving up the sanctions against Iran, and we are going to open up Iran and letting Iran to be integrated in international politics. Then negotiation can be initiated. And I hope that President Putin would play a significant role. And America wants that Putin may bridge between Iran and United States of America.
That would be a very important angle to it all, and we will see how that develops. Amir, Mohsen, Hadian, I'd like to understand, in your point of view, can the US dictate terms to Iran when it has been the one that pulled itself out of the JCPOA in Trump's last term, when everything was moving in the right direction? I'd like to understand your point of view as far as that is concerned. Dr. Saab has given his.
Well, actually, Trump doesn't really observe the rules-based international order that has been established since World War II by the Americans, in fact. He doesn't observe the rules-based international order. So what he believes in is actually peace through strength. He wants to position America in a position of strength and then dictate American terms on other countries. However, the perception of American success, that would also make Trump happy with his diplomatic actions. In a sense, it depends on the Iranians, that how do they really want to play out with Trump, and whether do they want to talk with Trump or put the ball in Trump's court by offering a counter argument or another suggestion for a deal or not. So far, the Iranians have been receiving packages of deals from the United States or Europe or Russia or China, but they have not proposed a possible framework so far, at least at the official level. We don't know how it's going on at the non-official levels. And regarding the IAEA, I would like to say that the IAEA is concerned with the 60% uranium stockpile of Iran. So what actually concerns the IAEA is the shortening of Iran's breakout time. However, Iran apparently wants to create leverage rather than build a nuclear device. That's how I see it.
Final question to you, Amir, Mohsen, Hadian. Tehran is engaged in the recent months in diplomatic efforts with three of the countries that were part of the JCPOA deal, Britain, France and Germany, and this all concerns issues surrounding its nuclear ambitions. Will these efforts, in your point of view, bear some kind of fruit as far as Iran's peaceful nuclear deal is concerned?
Well, Tehran wants to avoid the triggering of the snapback mechanism in the UN Security Council 2231. So since Tehran wants to avoid the snapback mechanism in this resolution, I think Tehran is negotiating in good faith with the Europeans. They really want something to come out of these negotiations in order to avoid snapback in October 2025.
All right, thank you so very much, Amir Mohsen Hadian, to have joined us. That was international affairs expert Amir Mohsen Hadian joining to discuss the latest issue concerning Iran and the US. Dr. Munawar, you've talked about the conflicts and in the Middle East and how that has affected the deal. We all know the pressure tactics that Trump has been using as far as Iran is concerned, the statements that he has given as far as Iran is concerned. I'd like to go to early February this year. Trump signed an executive order on Iran warning the country will be obliterated if he was quote unquote assassinated by Iran. The order called for putting Iran's export of oil to zero, including to China. And there are the recent efforts for Iraq as well. The pressure is being put on Iraq, which buys Iran's crude oil at a discount. Also, snapback of UN sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. But he did at that time also, it was just a month back, leave the door open for talks. That was beginning of February. He said, I'm going to sign it. Hopefully, we are not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange to work out a deal with Iran. We do not want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody. But they just can't have a nuclear bomb. Quote, unquote, this is what I'm saying. Also, he put a message the next day saying reports that the US working in conjunction with Iran is going to blow Iran into smithereens are greatly exaggerated, quote unquote. I would much prefer a verified nuclear peace agreement which will let Iran peacefully grow and prosper. We should start working on it immediately and have a big Middle East celebration when it is signed and completed. What do these statements indicate? I mean, for me, they seem positive. It seems as if Trump wants to move forward, have a deal, make Iran come back on the world arena, as you had mentioned in your previous answer, and the desire for talks. But is this a concealed message in all of that? How do you view these statements that emanate from a month back?
I agree with you. I really support President Trump's policies, frankly speaking. I mean, many of my Pakistani friends, they might be shocked by listening by this statement. Otherwise, what was the purpose of the United Nations? Frankly speaking, the purpose was when it was made in 1945 that they would not allow wars to occur because war gives you pain, death and destruction.
True.
The moment President Trump came, he stopped war, at least a ceasefire in the Middle East, a ceasefire at least, or especially the negotiation is started regarding stopping war in the Ukraine. He is talking about to bridge the gap as far as trade deficit is concerned, because America at this moment is facing $45 billion trade deficit with India, something like $235 billion trade deficit with Europe, $200 billion trade deficit with Canada and other countries as well. So he is good for his own country because his policy is a new mercantilist policy. Mercantilism means when you are trying to have policies which may increase the power and wealth of your country, and in new mercantilism you are encouraging exports and discouraging the imports. This is his policy. But as far as President Trump's statements are concerned, in international politics, when President gives statements, it is taken as an action. Let me give you one example. During the Second World War period, when Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japanese, only Hitler gave a statement that we are in a state of war against America. They did not fire a single bullet. But even then, it was taken as enough casus belli to go to war. and Americans jumped into the Second World War. So therefore, statements are very, very important. But now question again is that we are living in a multipolar world where America is not no more a sole superpower.
This is not what the US wants, basically.
But I mean, this is the reality. This is the reality. If you see, for instance, as far as technology is concerned, out of 65 in 58 technologies, China is leading.
True.
I mean, Chinese economy growth is 5 to 6% per year. American economic growth is 2 to 3% per year. So, I mean, Chinese, they know that within the span of 10 years, if they keep peaceful movement, they would cross United States of America as far as GDP is concerned.
So, coming back to Iran and US.
So therefore, I would say that in multipolar, octagonal multipolar world, can America afford a direct clash with Iran? I think no. Even American strategic thinkers who are supporting at this moment the actions of Donald Trump, like Jeffrey Sachs and John Mearsheimer, they would also not suggest this, number one. Number two, I mean, Jewish lobby is very strong in United States of America. I mean, this is not American war. This is the Israel's war. And who is threatening Israel at this moment? Iraq? No. Egypt? No. Jordan? Look, National Security Council, head of National Security Council of Israel, he gave an interview 2-3 days back. He said, look, we have a control over Jordan. And if we want to take our orders implemented in Jordan, we can order it to the king of Jordan at midnight. And he will do this. And he says that we are going to control completely the Syria. And days are not far when we will control Iraq as well. So who would resist this? Only one potential power in the region, and that is Iran. So this is a problem is Israel. This is not the problem of United States of America. So therefore, Israeli lobby, Jewish lobby is very strong, and their policies are reflected in the statement of Donald Trump. Though he is, again, I would say, is a good deal maker. He would take care of the American interest, not completely the interest of the Israel.
But if in the American interest, peace is the best solution, then I hope he goes for that. He will go for a solution that would be a win-win for all. I mean, this is what we all want. Everybody in the world wants, conflicts to end, and for all countries to develop and prosper equally the way they can, the more opportunities they get. And I think this level playing field needs to be given to Iran now than later. I think we have waited too long for that to happen with Iran and its opportunities that it has. Thank you very much for this segment, but of course you stay with us for the second story as well. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Gaza situation, the situation as far as Palestine is concerned. Now, when it comes to Palestine, a lot of things have been happening, whether it be the talks on the future of the ceasefire deal that are happening today in Doha as we speak, whether it be the talks between Hamas and the US, which have been looked at from a global perspective with a lot of eyebrows, raised eyebrows and question marks. But the US side says that it has been, these talks have been good, positive to say the least. This and more will be discussed in this segment. We continue to be joined by Dr. Munawar Hussain, who is a foreign affairs expert. Dr. Saab, Israeli negotiators are either have reached or about to reach Doha as we speak. Mediators from Egypt, Qatar and the US are there. They're trying to revive the ceasefire deal. We know that Israel wants an extension of phase 1. Hamas says, no way, we need to go to the phase 2 and then further to the phase 3. What do you foresee as far as these talks is concerned? Will Hamas relent to an extension of phase 1? Because that is part of the deal that they signed in the very beginning. There was a clause in which, there was the possibility of extending the first phase. Or will there be an insistence to go to phase 2?
In international politics, we say that if there is a gap of communication, definitely conflict emerges. So here, this is a good thing that United States of America is directly dealing with Hamas. Though Israelis, they have a concern over this. So therefore, I am very positive that this deal would be successful, because Americans, they are putting enough pressure on Israel and encouraging Arab partners like Qatar to carry on this ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Moreover, I would say that the success of deal is depending on the behavior of Israel, because Israel is not at the receiving end. Hamas is at the receiving end. And if Israel allow flow of aid, if Israel do not attack the West Bank, if they restore utilities in the Gaza, and if they pull out some extent their troops out of Gaza, there definitely this deal would have a positive outcome.
All right, you talk of positive outcome, but when you look at the Israeli Energy Minister, Eli Cohen, who blocks the electricity supply to Gaza, of course, which leads to huge catastrophe because of the fuel supplies and all the rest that are impacted by the stoppage of electricity supply. To add to that is the humanitarian situation because of the blockade of aid into Gaza. Why is Israel resorting to such tactics when there is a deal that is already in place between the two on which talks are going to happen today?
It is all because of the Greater Israel, idea of Greater Israel. I mean, their parliament has rejected the option of two-state solution with the majority vote. And I mentioned you earlier the statement of the head of their Security Council who said that we are controlling Jordan, we are near to control Syria, and the days are not far when we will have a control over Iraq. So therefore, the idea of Greater Israel. So what suits them? What suits them? The peace or continues the conflict?
Continuation of conflict.
Conflict. And this is the pressure of President Trump that they have went for the ceasefire. Though this is the fact that Israel is completely exhausted. Their population is not supporting for continuation of the war, and their economy is, it is going down day by day. There is fragmentation in Israeli society. So these are all factors, but the actual factor is the pressure of United States of America, because America is the sole supporter of Israel. So I believe that Israel would not like to have a permanent peace in the Middle East, otherwise their idea for this Greater Israel would be jeopardized.
All right, now let's add to that a very interesting angle that I see emerging, and that are the direct talks between Hamas and the US. This has never happened in decades. It happens now. After 1997, all of a sudden in 2025, we get the news that there are direct talks going. And then to add to that, Donald Trump's envoy says that these talks have been very helpful and that something could come together on Gaza within weeks. Then, he was put under pressure by the Israeli lobby, and then he had to say that I want to be crystal clear that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has murdered thousands of innocent people. They are bad people. But he also says, and I'm talking of Bohler, Adam Bohler, the US envoy for captives, he says, we are the United States. We are not an agent of Israel. This is a very strong comment. Secondly, then he tells Israel's Khan public broadcaster that some of the things Hamas is demanding are relatively reasonable and can be worked with, that the Palestinian group has offered a 5 to 10 year ceasefire during which it could not act militarily or politically. What are Donald Trump and Adam Bohler indicating? Because this is a very, very important angle.
Exactly. And this is what miracle is coming out from President Trump. And therefore...
because, would you have expected that?
No, not at all, not at all. Frankly speaking, he is a very effective policies. President Trump is very successful in as far as his policies are concerned within a short span of time. I think he has hardly 20 days in office, not more than this, I believe. So this is American interest. President Trump is going for American interest, not the interest of Israel. And this is not only the single indication that they are putting pressure on Israel. Another indication is that Qatar, if Qatar has gone to United Nations, that Israel may be pressurized to sign the NPT. Do you think that Qatar can go without the approval of the United States of America? So I think this is what? This is putting pressure on Israel, go for peace, because President Trump wants to focus on rebuilding American economy, rebuilding American image, rebuilding American power stature in international politics. Americans can't afford anti-American feelings, at least in the Middle East. They would not allow Iran to play the card of this Palestinian issue and to generate the anti-American feelings in the Middle East. So therefore, I think this is the reason that Americans, they have come directly in contact with the Hamas, and moreover, Americans, they are more sensitive regarding their own people. And this is the responsibility of the president to protect the life, liberty, and property of American individuals. So they are the prisoners of war. So therefore, they are in direct contact with the Hamas, which is definitely not liked by the Israelis, because that would bridge the gap between Hamas and President Trump.
Because there is no middleman, you know.
Exactly, exactly. This is the reason.
All right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on the one hand, we hear such encouraging news. On the other hand, we hear news about arrest and planned deportation of a Columbia University student, Mahmoud Khalid, who is a green card holder, for his role in pro-Palestine protests on campus. Is this setting a very dangerous precedent for other students or even US citizens or other green card holders who are in whichever capacity in the US and who have, gone and taken part in protests which have been pro-Palestine? What's your take on that?
But sir, the whole West, and especially United States of America, is going through the process of change. And this process is ignoring the idealism, especially the idealism of the founding fathers. Because when they built up America, they said that we are going to build upon a city and we would be model for others to follow. An American Constitution, its Article 1,
First,
yes, it guarantees the liberty of American individual. And if someone like Khalil, if she is the citizen of America as per law, I mean, he has the laws. So therefore, I mean, this is going against the very idealism of America. It would have a negative impact even in the world, because many people, they idolize American society, American polity, and American economy. So the American soft power might be dent. But again, it is the question of Israeli lobby, because during elections, President Trump promised that he would take actions against students who are involved in the protest against Israel and pro-Hamas. So I mean, he is fulfilling that promises, but otherwise, I mean, this is not good for American society, because American society is very vibrant society. It is very liberal society.
and the First Amendment has been a very important part
Exactly,
of the US
exactly.
Constitution.
And this, because of this liberalism, Americans, they are power in the world.
All right, all right. But you know, coming to the Israeli side that you said it doesn't please, they are also resorting to very below the belt tactics. There's a controversial new trend on TikTok that has, sparked outrage. Israeli content creators that are mocking the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Young creators pose as members of a fictional humanitarian organization called the Family and Friends to solicit donations for Palestinian children, and then the callers then film the heated reactions that come, which typically involve angry shouting and swearing, and then they say, oh, it's all part of a prank. How can you resort to such tactics when you yourself have been the murderers of tens of thousands of people in Palestine? 48,453 Palestinians have been killed, and we are not even adding those who are under the rubble, and the actual figure as per the Lancet organization could be even 180,000.
But sir, it is showing the very psyche and apartheid characteristics of Israeli society, number one. Number two, Israelis, they are defeated, psychologically they are defeated because of the social media. I mean, during the war, social media was in favor of Hamas and Palestinians, not in favor of Israel. And even the youth of America, there was a survey in Harvard University where 90% of American youth, they believe that Israel must be eliminated and the land should be handed over to Hamas. So I mean, this is the frustration. They have lost their legitimacy, frankly speaking. So this is frustration. Again, they want to have at least psychological upper hand by taking advantage of this TikTok and other social media tools, so that they can at least settle their score with the Palestinians who actually victorious, they emerged victorious during war as far as social media war was concerned.
And with this strength of character as well. Adding to that, international support has grown as far as this Arab counter proposal to US President Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza, displace its residents is concerned. First of all, it was presented by Cairo, 53 billion deal. Then it goes to the OIC, which is again, okayed with a thumping majority. It adopts this plan. What now? What's going to happen now? What's your take on that? Because on the one hand, you have the US proposal, on the other hand, you've got the Arab counter proposal. And you've got more and more even European countries that are talking in favor of this Arab counter proposal?
Nobody is supporting American plan, frankly speaking. OIC and European partners, China, Russia, all support the Egyptian plan. And nobody wants that Palestine may be removed from the Palestinian land. I mean, this would be very disastrous. This would be very disastrous for the Middle East. And it would be very disastrous for the Middle Eastern governments. I mean, how they could face, they would be able to face their people, their population, who are now anti-Israel and pro-Palestinians. So I think, therefore I say that it would be very hard for Americans to implement their plan because the opposition is very strong. If all key players of international politics and regional players, they are on the side of the Egyptian plan, including Pakistan, even American allies, all American allies. So it is not feasible for Americans to go with their own plans, except Israel would support it. Otherwise, all nations, they have rejected it. And it is, by the way, against the resolution of 1967 of the United Nations. It would be against the international law. So therefore, how Americans, they would be able to justify it? So I think I don't see the implementation of the President Trump's plan as far as Gaza is concerned.
All right. Last question. I'd like to understand Pakistan's role in all of that as well. Our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ishaq Dar Saab, says Islamic bloc needs to categorically reject any proposal that seeks to eject the Palestinians from their own homeland. He was talking at the extraordinary session of the OIC that also okayed the Arab counter proposal. He said no external force has the right to dictate their future. They must determine their own future. The OIC stands united against any sinister agenda to alter the demography of the occupied Palestinian territories. And he talks about full implementation of the 3 phases of this ceasefire agreement as proposed by Cairo, which includes a permanent cessation of hostilities, complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, unrestricted humanitarian access, comprehensive reconstruction plan. Earlier, our Prime Minister had also lauded this very plan. How do you see Pakistan's role in this current scenario?
Very constructive, very positive. Though we have our own internal problems, otherwise, if you see the history of Pakistan, we consistently support the Palestinian cause, and we always stand with the Palestine and the Arab friends. Why Pakistan has such behavior? Because of 3 important reasons. Number 1, the creation of Pakistan is based on Islamic ideology. And number 2, the cornerstone of our foreign policy is to have a cordial and good relations with the Muslim world. And number 3, that Pakistan is a middle range power. And Pakistan can play a constructive role because Pakistan has a liberal society which can bridge between West and the Muslim world. So Pakistani behavior would definitely affect at least the regional politics.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Munawar Hussain, foreign affairs expert, to have joined us throughout the show and to have discussed not only US-Iran relations under the current scenario, but also the situation in Gaza. A lot of interesting updates are coming up, and I am at least hopeful as far as the future of the Middle East is concerned, and even as far as the future for Iran is concerned. Can you stay on with us while we end this show with the last 2 stories? The first story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan, that has set the 30th of March as a deadline for Afghan migrants to leave. 22 days are now left for the evacuation of the illegal foreign and Afghan citizen card holders. They say that officials are estimating over 800,000 documented migrants hold the Afghan citizen cards, while many others remain undocumented, pointing out that the illegal foreigners repatriation program was being implemented since the 1st of November 2023. The Interior Ministry, in a statement, has mentioned that sufficient time had already been given or granted for the dignified return of the Afghans. The government has assured that no one is going to be mistreated during this evacuation. The government of Pakistan has also said that arrangements have been completed for the food and health facilities for the returnees, and the foreigners will have to meet the legal requirements to continue to stay in Pakistan. We all know how Pakistan has been a very gracious host for millions and millions of Afghan refugees in the last decades. Finally, Canada's next Prime Minister is going to be Mark Carney, and he vows to win over as far as the trade wars with Trump is concerned. He has won the race to succeed Justin Trudeau as Canada's next Prime Minister. He is the former governor of the Canadian and UK central banks who beat 3 rivals in the Liberal Party's leadership contest in a landslide. Now, he says Americans should make no mistake in trade, as in hockey, Canada is going to win. He said his government is going to keep tariffs on US imports until the Americans show us respect. He warned that Canada was facing an existential challenge from the US under Trump. The Kerry Carney won his first ballot on Sunday evening, taking 85.9% of the vote to beat his nearest rivals. He might lead a minority government in parliament and could either call a snap general election, or opposition parties could force one with a no confidence vote later this month. There are important key policies as far as Carney is concerned, but we'll talk about that another day. For the moment, it's goodbye for me for today. From Newsroom, we'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay tuned for more. And of course, we'll always be bringing you different perspectives from Pakistan's point of view as well, and from the regional and international point of view. Till then, Allah Hafiz.